Dr. Park Ji-woo wiped sweat from her forehead as she carefully removed another layer of dust from the wall. The air in the underground chamber was hot and stale despite the cooling units they had installed. For 3 months, her team had been digging on Kepler 442 bits, a planet that humans had only started exploring 5 years ago. "There's something here," she said to herself, brushing more gently with her small tool. The symbols began to appear more clearly under her careful work. Her heart beat faster. These markings looked familiar in a way that made no sense. Dr. Kim Do-yeon was examining soil samples across the chamber when Ji-woo called to him. "Dr. Kim, you need to see this right now." Her voice echoed against the ancient walls. Do-yeon set down his equipment and walked over, the light from his helmet casting long shadows. He knelt beside her and squinted at the wall. "Are those?" he started, his voice trailing off as he pulled out a small device to take pictures. "They look like Earth writing," Ji-woo said, "like the oldest writing we've ever found back home." Do-yeon's fingers moved quickly across his tablet, comparing the symbols to Earth's archaeological database. "This can't be right," he muttered. He looked up at Ji-woo with wide eyes. "These match Proto-Cuneiform script from ancient Mesopotamia. But that's impossible." "We're 27 light-years from Earth," Ji-woo said, stating the obvious because her mind couldn't process the implications. The research team had expected to find ruins from the Proxima civilization, the aliens who had left traces across 3 star systems. But these ruins were different. And now, they knew why. "I need to call the others," Do-yeon said, standing up quickly. He pressed the comm button on his suit. "Team meeting. Main chamber. Now." Within 10 minutes, the small team of 6 researchers gathered around the wall. Dr. Han Minju, their linguistics expert, couldn't stop touching the symbols, as if making sure they were real. "The dating analysis puts these ruins at approximately 2.3 million years old," said Dr. Nam Sung-hoon, checking his readings again. "That's older than any known galactic civilization. The Artaxians only go back 900,000 years, and they're the oldest we've confirmed." "Could humans have been taken from Earth by another species?" asked Lee Yun-ho, the team's anthropologist. "Maybe used as specimens or slaves." Ji-woo shook her head. "The technology in this structure doesn't match any known species, and look at the design elements. They feel human somehow." As the team debated, Ji-woo noticed a faint line in the floor near the wall with the symbols. "There's something else here," she said, kneeling down to examine it. The others fell silent as she traced the line with her finger. "It's a door," she announced. "Help me find the opening mechanism." The team spread out, examining the walls and floor carefully. After 20 minutes of searching, Dr. Kang Ji-hoon called out from the corner of the room. "I think I found something." He was pushing against a stone that looked slightly different from the others. With a final shove, the stone moved inward with a grinding sound. Dust fell from the ceiling as the floor by the symbol wall began to slide open. Cool air rushed up from below. Their lights revealed a staircase leading down into darkness. "We should wait for backup," Sung-hoon said nervously. "The main research vessel won't be back for 2 weeks," Do-yeon reminded him. "We're following standard protocol. We go down, but we stay together." One by one, they descended the ancient stairs. At the bottom, they found themselves in a large circular chamber. Unlike the rough stone walls above, this room was made of a smooth, dark material that seemed to absorb their light. "What is this place?" Yun-ho whispered, her voice filled with wonder. In the center of the room stood a raised platform with what looked like a control panel. The symbols on it matched those on the wall above. "It's some kind of technology," Ji-hoon said, approaching it carefully. "But it's so old." "Don't touch anything," Do-yeon warned. "We need to document everything first." They spent hours taking pictures, measurements, and samples. The more they examined, the more certain they became that this place was built by human hands, or at least, beings very much like humans. As the day grew late, Zhu found herself drawn to the central console. While the others packed up their equipment, she moved closer to it. Something about it called to her. Without fully realizing what she was doing, she reached out and placed her palm on the smooth surface. The room suddenly hummed with energy. Lights that had been dormant for millions of years began to globe along the walls. The team froze, watching in amazement as the console under Zhu's hand came to life. "Zhu, what did you do?" Dohyun asked, hurrying to her side. "I don't know," she said. "It just responded to me." Han Juan, Sora's assistant, entered the lab carrying the artifact container. The metal box was sealed tight, protecting everyone from accidental exposure to the radiation. Inside was a small crystal disk, discovered in ruins on Ta City. Similar artifacts had been found on 7 worlds, all bearing the same unique radiation pattern. "The sequence is ready," Juan announced, checking the readings on his tablet. "Exposure to the artifact's radiation pattern will begin in 3 minutes. Taegu lay down on the medical bed in the center of the lab. Sora attached sensors to his forehead and chest to monitor his vital signs. "Remember, if you feel any pain or discomfort, we'll stop immediately," she told him. "I understand the risks," Taegu said. "My grandfather had Alzheimer's. If our memories are stored in our DNA like you've discovered, maybe someday this research could help people like him." Sora smiled. That was why she had become a scientist, to help people. She never imagined she would uncover the greatest secret in human history. She had made the discovery by accident. While examining DNA samples exposed to radiation from the artifacts, she noticed strange changes in certain gene sequences. These weren't mutations, they were activations. Parts of human DNA that had seemed like jump code were actually dormant information waiting for a specific trigger. 1 minute remaining, Juan said. "All systems are normal." Sora checked the monitoring screen. Taehu's vitals were stable. She thought about the first volunteer, Dr. Park Min-ho, and his reaction after the procedure. "I remember building ships that could cross the stars," he had said, his voice full of wonder and confusion. "But they're not my memories. They're someone else's, yet they're inside me." "Beginning exposure now," Juan said, pressing a button on the container. The artifact inside began to glow with a soft blue light. Special filters in the container allowed only the specific radiation pattern to escape, the pattern that activated the dormant sequences in human DNA. Taegu's breathing remained steady. Some volunteers reported seeing images immediately, but others experienced nothing until hours later, often in their dreams. The exposure lasted 10 minutes. When it was complete, Juan sealed the container again. "That's it," Sora told Taegu. "How do you feel?" "The same," he said, sounding disappointed. "I don't remember anything new." "It often takes time," she assured him. "We'll monitor you for the next 24 hours. 8 hours later, Sora was reviewing data in her office when an urgent call came from the medical ward. "Dr. Yoon, you need to come quickly," the nurse said. "Sergeant No is having a strong reaction." Sora rushed to the ward. She found Taegu sitting up in bed, his eyes wide, tears streaming down his face. But he wasn't in distress. His expression was one of wonder. "I remember," he whispered when he saw her. "I remember the stars. We were everywhere." Sora sat beside his bed. "Tell me what you see." "Not see. Remember," Taegu said. "Like they're my own memories, but from another life. We had ships, beautiful ships that could fold space. We had colonies on hundreds of worlds." His voice broke. "We were so proud. Too proud." Sora recorded everything as Taegu spoke. Each volunteer remembered different pieces of the past. Together, they were rebuilding humanity's true history. "There was a war," Taegu continued, his voice dropping. "Not with aliens, with ourselves. We had split into factions, those who wanted to keep expanding, and those who saw danger in going too far." This was new information. Previous volunteers had mentioned conflicts but not their nature. What danger? Sora asked. Tegu's face changed, showing fear. Something ancient. Something that slept between galaxies. Our deep space explorers woke it. At first, we thought it was just another form of life. But it wasn't. It was hungry. A chill ran down Sora's spine. This matched fragments from other volunteers' memories, references to a threat from beyond. We fought it for centuries, Tegu continued. Lost colony after colony. Eventually, we realized we couldn't win, not directly. So the remaining elders made a plan. They would hide humanity on its birth world, encode their knowledge into our DNA, and hope that when we evolved again and returned to space, the threat would be gone. Or that we would be ready to face it, Sora added quietly. Tegu nodded. They used a device, the forgetting. It wiped our civilization away, returned us to primitive state, but preserved everything in our genes. His eyes met Sora's. They sacrificed everything to save us. It's reading us, Dahian said, probably checking our DNA. After a moment, the center of the ring began to glow, and a message appeared in ancient script that matched what they had found in ruins across the galaxy. What does it say? Jinwoo asked. Linguist Park Hyjin studied the symbols. It says, "Welcome home, children of Earth. The repository awaits." Jinwoo took a deep breath. Take us in. The Odyssey carefully moved toward the glowing center of the ring. As they passed through, they found themselves in a massive interior space. Inside the ring was a complete station, with structures that looked like buildings, docks, and gardens, all arranged around a central tower. It's a habitat, Minna said in wonder. A complete self-contained world. They docked the ship at what appeared to be a landing area. Jinwoo led the exploration team, all wearing protective suits just in case. But when they stepped inside the station, sensors indicated the air was perfectly breathable. How is this possible after millions of years? Asked Security Chief Kang Ji-hoon. As if in answer, small lights appeared in the air around them, forming a path toward the central tower. I think we're being invited in, Jinwoo said. The team followed the lights through the ancient station. Everything was in perfect condition, as if the inhabitants had just stepped away moments ago, rather than millions of years. They reached the central tower and entered a large circular room. In the center stood a pedestal with a glowing orb. The repository, Hyjin whispered. Jinwoo approached it carefully. As he neared, the orb brightened, and a holographic image appeared above it, a human figure wearing strange clothing. Greetings, descendants, the figure said in perfect modern Korean. I am Archivist Talos. Welcome to the repository of knowledge. The team stared in shock. How can it speak our language? Ji-hoon asked. The system is adaptive, Minna guessed. It's scanning our minds and adjusting its output. Your hypothesis is correct, the hologram said. This system was designed to communicate with humanity, regardless of how your languages evolved. What is this place? Jinwoo asked. This is the central repository of all knowledge gathered by humanity during its first ascension, the hologram explained. When the decision was made to enact the Forgetting Protocol, our leaders created this place to preserve everything we had learned over 1,000,000 years of exploration. The hologram waved its hand, and the room transformed. They found themselves surrounded by stars and planets, a three-dimensional map of the galaxy. Behold, the extent of the first human empire, the hologram said. Bright points of light appeared throughout the galaxy, hundreds, then thousands of them, marking human colonies and outposts. The team stared in amazement at the scale of their ancestors' civilization. But there's more, the hologram continued. Red points began to appear on different planets. These mark the worlds where we actively guided evolution. Guided evolution, Jinwoo repeated. Yes, our ancestors did not merely explore the galaxy. They seeded it with life. When they found promising worlds, they introduced genetic material that would eventually evolve into intelligent species. More information appeared, showing genetic sequences and evolutionary paths. Jinwoo recognized several of them. These are the Nuri and the Tabak and the Volari, he said in disbelief. You're saying we created them? Not created. The hologram corrected. Guided. The base life was already present. Our ancestors simply helped it along certain paths similar to our own evolution. This changes everything, Jinwoo said, studying the holographic display. We're not just another species. We're their progenitors. The implications were staggering. The very species now threatening Earth, claiming to be the ancient elder races of the galaxy, were actually the children of humanity. Why would our ancestors do this? Ji-hoon asked. Why seed the galaxy with new intelligent species? The hologram's expression turned sad. Because they knew what was coming. They knew humanity would need allies when it returned to the stars. A new image appeared, showing something vast and dark moving between galaxies. The hunger approaches, the hologram said, and humanity must unite the children of the stars to face it. That was always the plan. Jinwoo stared at the dark shape. How much time do we have? The ancient weapons platforms were the most difficult systems to reactivate. They required specific genetic keys from multiple humans, a safety measure to ensure the weapons could not be used without consensus. The Nuri ships are bringing the components we requested, Gina said. The Volari have pledged their entire fleet. Even some of the smaller species are contributing resources. And the activation program? Hyunki asked, turning to Sora. We've processed over 10,000 volunteers, she replied. Each one recovers different fragments of knowledge. The genetic library is growing daily. A soft chime sounded, alerting them that the Tabak ships had docked. As the highest-ranking officials, they would need to greet the delegation. As they walked through the corridors of the station, Jinwoo reflected on how quickly humanity had adjusted to its new reality. People who had once thought the stars were distant and unreachable now remembered, through their ancestors' memories, what it was like to travel between them as easily as walking from room to room. Do you ever wonder, she asked Hyunki, if our ancestors made the right choice, hiding instead of fighting? Hyunki considered this. I think they understood something we're just beginning to grasp. They could have continued fighting alone and been destroyed. Instead, they chose to seed the galaxy with new life, with species that would evolve along different paths, develop different strengths. Unity through diversity, Sora added. Each species brings something unique to the fight. They'd reached the diplomatic reception area, just as the Tabak delegation was entering. The aliens stood nearly 2 meters tall, with blue-gray skin and 4 eyes arranged vertically on their faces. They had evolved on a high-gravity world, giving them dense muscles and compact bodies. Ambassador Gina stepped forward to greet them in their own language. The lead Tabak responded with formal courtesy, but Jinwoo could see the tension in their posture. Later, after the diplomatic pleasantries were complete, the full Human Leadership Council met to discuss strategy. The conclave begins in 3 days, Admiral Yang said. By then, we need to have the full defensive network operational. The ancestors didn't just hide us to preserve our species, Hyunki said suddenly, as if realizing something important. They hid us to save us for this moment, when we would be needed again. Jinwoo nodded. They knew the hunger would return eventually, so they created a backup plan. Us. And they created potential allies. The other species. We've spent this year recovering our past, Jinwoo said. Now we need to secure our future. 3 days later, representatives from 100 worlds gathered in a great hall on Earth's moon. Some came willingly, eager to meet their creators. Others came reluctantly, still doubting the evidence. But all came because they recognized the threat approaching their galaxy. Jinwoo watched from the side as Admiral Yang addressed the assembled representatives. The human leaders spoke of unity, of common purpose, of shared survival. We did not ask to be the first race, Yang said, but we accept the responsibility that comes with it. Not as conquerors, but as guardians and teachers. Our ancestors left us this legacy, not so we could rule over you, but so together we could defend all life in this galaxy." As the speech concluded, Ju felt a hand on her shoulder. She turned to see Sora, smiling. "They're responding," Sora whispered. "Look at their faces." Across the hall, the expressions of the alien representatives were changing. Doubt was giving way to determination. Fear was transforming into resolve. Humanity had stepped into its role at last, fulfilling the hope of those first humans who had entrusted their legacy to the stars. And they would not face the darkness alone. "The end, less than you think," the hologram replied. "It has sensed your return to the stars. It remembers humanity, and it fears what you might become again." Jinwoo turned to his crew. "We need to get this information back to Earth immediately, and we need to find a way to prove to the other species who they really are." The diplomatic crisis would only intensify. Several prominent alien civilizations that had claimed the title of elder races now faced evidence that humans were the true elders they had mythologized for millennia. But there was no time for politics. The hunger was coming. Dr. Park Ju pressed her hand against the cool glass of the observation window. Earth looked different now, with new lights glowing at strategic points across the continents. These were the control centers for the ancient network, technology buried beneath the ground for millions of years, waiting for humanity to remember how to use it. "It's hard to believe it's only been a year," she said softly. Commander Lee Hunky stood beside her, his uniform now bearing the new emblem of the Reclamation Fleet. "Sometimes it feels like a dream," he replied. "Other times, it feels like I've always known." Dr. Yoon Sora approached them, carrying a tablet with the latest reports. Her work on genetic memory activation had earned her the highest scientific honors humanity could bestow. More importantly, it had given humanity back its past. "The network is responding," Sora reported as she showed them the screen. "Ancient installations across the galaxy are activating, responding to commands from Earth after millions of years of dormancy." On her tablet, they could see dozens of green dots lighting up across a map of nearby star systems. Each dot represented an installation built by their ancestors: monitoring stations, defense platforms, and communication relays. "Sector 7 is now online," Sora added. "That gives us coverage of the Orion Arm and part of the Perseus Arm." Ju smiled. After discovering the ruins on Kepler 442 bits, she had never imagined how quickly things would change. The knowledge recovered from the repository had advanced human technology by centuries in just 1 year. Behind them, the door to the observation deck slid open. Captain Ba Jinmu entered, followed by Ambassador Moon Jina, who had once been his first officer on the Odyssey. "The Tabak delegation has arrived," Jina announced. "Their ships are requesting permission to dock." Hunky nodded. "Grant it, and make sure they're given full diplomatic courtesies." "Do you think they'll be more cooperative this time?" Ju asked. Jinwoo's expression was doubtful. "The evidence is overwhelming, but accepting it means overturning their entire cultural identity." Not all species had reacted well to discovering they were, in effect, humanity's children. The Tabak had been particularly resistant, clinging to their own myths of origin. Some younger species refused to accept their place in the cosmic hierarchy, while others had pledged allegiance to their newly discovered elders. "The Nuri fleet has changed course," Hunky noted, checking his own reports. "They're heading toward the gathering point." This was unexpected good news. The Nuri had been among the most hostile initially, even threatening war. But after their religious leaders had studied the genetic evidence, they had undergone a profound cultural shift. Their ancient texts spoke of those who came before, who would return in time of greatest need. They now believed humans were these mythical figures. "How many species have confirmed attendance?" Sora asked. 78, Jaina replied. "With the Tabak, that will be 79. We're still waiting to hear from 23 others." Ju felt a mix of hope and anxiety. The Galactic Conclave would be the largest gathering of different species in known history. Representatives from 100 worlds would come to Earth to discuss the threat that now approached from beyond the galaxy's edge. "And the hunger?" she asked quietly. The room fell silent. Jinwoo activated a display showing the latest deep space scans. "Still coming," he said grimly. "The outer sensors detected crossing the void between galaxies. Current estimates give us 8 months before it reaches our first colonial systems." The hunger. Their ancestors had faced it before and chosen to hide rather than be destroyed. A vast entity that existed between galaxies, feeding on stars and energy. Not a species, but something older and more alien than anything they had encountered. The repository had contained records of humanity's first encounter with it, how their deep space explorers had accidentally awakened it, how it had followed them back, destroying colony after colony. "At least we know what we're facing this time," Hyunki said. "Our ancestors left us the tools to fight it." The air above the console shimmered, and a projection appeared, a 3-dimensional image of the galaxy, with certain stars glowing brighter than others. Then the image changed, showing figures that looked human building ships that sailed among the stars. "It's telling a story," Han Minju said in awe. "The story of whoever built this place." The projection shifted again, displaying symbols that moved and changed. Minju stared at them, her training kicking in. "This is incredible," she said. "These symbols, they're evolving into something I recognize. It's becoming similar to Sanskrit, one of Earth's oldest languages." As they watched, the message became clearer. Minju translated slowly, her voice shaking. "We were the first to walk among the stars. We seeded the galaxy with life. We are your ancestors. We are humanity's beginning. When danger came, we returned to Earth to hide, to survive, to forget. One day, you will remember. One day, you will return." A heavy silence fell over the team. Do-hyun was the first to speak. "Humans," he said in disbelief. "Humans were the first spacefaring civilization. We're not newcomers to the galaxy. We're the elders everyone has been searching for." Jiwoo stared at the projection as it continued to show images of ancient human ships traveling to distant stars. Everything they thought they knew about humanity's place in the universe had just changed forever. "We need to tell Earth," she said quietly. "Everything is about to change." Commander Lee Hunky walked slowly around the holographic display that hovered in the center of the Horizons Bridge. The map showed all the places they had visited in the past 7 months. 7 star systems, 12 planets, and 23 moons. Each location marked with a small blue dot where they had found evidence. "Play the comparison again," he said to the ship's computer. The display changed to show artifacts from all 7 systems. Stone tablets from Ta Ceti, metal discs from 61 Cygni, crystal data storage from Epsilon Eridani. Though they were made of different materials, the patterns were unmistakably the same. "I still can't believe it," said Hunky quietly. Science Officer Kang Minji entered the bridge, her footsteps echoing on the metal floor. She looked tired. Her team had been working nonstop since they found the latest site on Europa 7, the largest moon orbiting the gas giant in this system. "Commander, I have the final analysis," she said, handing him a datapad. Hunky studied the screen. The numbers and graphs told a story that seemed impossible just months ago. "Another match?" he asked, though he already knew the answer. Minji nodded. "The artifacts on this moon contain the same genetic markers and technological signatures as all the others. There's no doubt anymore." Hyunki set the pad down on a nearby console. For most of his 20-year career in the Earth Space Authority, he had believed humans were newcomers to the galactic community. Humans had achieved faster-than-light travel only 80 years ago and had been surprised to find other intelligent species already exploring the stars. Some, like the Nuri, claimed histories going back nearly 1,000,000 years. But now, everything they thought they knew was wrong. "So we've confirmed it on 7 separate star systems now," Hyunki said, "all with the same conclusion. Yes, sir. The dating techniques all agree. These ruins are between 2.3 and 2.5 million years old, and they were built by humans. The DNA traces match ancient human lineages, and the technology all shows the same design principles, Minji explained. The evidence was becoming undeniable. Ancient humans had achieved interstellar travel millions of years before current civilization, only to retreat to Earth following some catastrophic event that erased their memory of the stars. How could we have forgotten all this? Hunky wondered aloud. How does an entire species forget they once ruled the stars? Minji had been asking herself the same question. The records we've decoded suggest some kind of disaster, something that forced them to abandon their colonies and retreat to Earth. Maybe they deliberately erased their memories to hide from whatever threatened them. The bridge door slid open again, and Communications Officer Choi Hyuno entered. His usual calm expression was replaced with worry. Commander, we're receiving multiple transmissions from Earth. The diplomatic situation is getting worse, he reported. Hyunki sighed. He had expected this. What now? Junho activated a screen showing messages from Earth Command. The Tabak delegation is demanding we cease our investigation immediately. Their ambassador called our findings human propaganda and a dangerous attempt to rewrite galactic history. What do they suggest we do with all this evidence? Minji asked, gesturing to the display of artifacts. They're claiming we manufactured it, Junho replied, or that we're misinterpreting ruins left by some unknown species. Hyunki frowned. The reaction from other spacefaring species had ranged from skepticism to outright hostility. Some, like the Tabak, simply refused to believe. Others, like the Volari, had shown interest but remained cautious. But the ancient Nuri species had reacted with anger bordering on rage. What's the status of the Nuri fleet? Hyunki asked. Junho brought up another display showing ship movements near Earth's solar system. Not good, sir. They've mobilized 17 warships and positioned them just outside our defense perimeter. They're claiming humans are fabricating evidence to justify territorial expansion. Territorial expansion. Minji repeated in disbelief. We're scientists, not conquerors. The truth threatens their position, Hyunki said. The Nuri have always claimed to be the first spacefaring race. Their entire culture is built around being the elder species who guide younger races. If humans actually came first, it destroys their whole identity. Junho finished. Hyunki walked to the front of the bridge and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, his ancestors had traveled between these same stars millions of years ago. They had built an empire that spanned at least 7 star systems, maybe more. And then something had happened that was so terrible they chose to forget it all and start over on Earth. We need to understand what happened to them, he said quietly, and why they chose to forget. An alert sounded from Chunho's station. Commander, we're receiving a direct transmission from Admiral Park. Priority 1. Put her through, Hyunki ordered. Admiral Park's face appeared on the main screen. Her expression was grave. Commander Lee, the situation is escalating. The Nuri ambassador has formally accused Earth of historical fraud and has threatened military action if we don't cease all archaeological expeditions related to these ruins. Admiral, we've found undeniable evidence on 7 star systems now, Hyunki responded. The science is solid. We can't ignore this discovery just because it makes some species uncomfortable. I agree, Commander, but we need to move carefully. The Galactic Council is divided on this issue. Some members support our right to investigate our own history, while others are siding with the Nuri. What are your orders, Admiral? Hyunki asked, though he already suspected what was coming. Admiral Park hesitated before answering. The Security Council wants you to return to Earth immediately. They believe having our primary research vessel in home territory would be safer while diplomats try to resolve the situation. Hyunki exchanged looks with Minji. They both knew what returning now would mean. Months or years of delay while politicians debated, while the truth waited to be discovered. Admiral. Hyunki said firmly. We're on the verge of major breakthroughs here. The artifacts on Europa 7 contain intact data crystals that might tell us what happened to our ancestors. With respect, retreating now would be a mistake. The Admiral was silent for a long moment. How long do you need? 3 days to complete our analysis of the data crystals, Minji answered quickly. Maybe less. Admiral Park nodded slowly. You have 48 hours, Commander. Then I need you back in Earth space. That's the best I can do. After the transmission ended, silence filled the bridge. Hyunki turned to his officers. 48 hours to uncover 2 million years of lost human history, he said. Let's make them count. Minji and Juno nodded, determination replacing the worry on their faces. Continue the survey, Hyunki ordered. The truth doesn't care if they believe it. Dr. Yoon-sora's hands did not shake as she inserted the needle into Surgeon No Taewoo's arm. After 15 years as a geneticist, she could draw blood with perfect precision. But today, her heart raced. This was the 12th volunteer, and each success brought them closer to unlocking humanity's hidden past. All done, she said, placing the blood sample into a clear tube. How are you feeling? Taewoo rubbed his arm. Fine. A bit nervous. Is it true what they say about the memories? Sora placed the sample in a centrifuge. Every volunteer has had different experiences. Some see only flashes of images. Others report complete memories. The lab aboard the science station Prometheus was once an ordinary research facility. Now it was the most important room in human space. 6 months ago, the station had been reassigned to Sora's team after her breakthrough discovery. 3 months of experiments had changed everything they knew about human history. The next morning, Sora presented Taewoo's account to the project leaders. Admiral Yang listened with a grave expression. Commander Lee Hyunki, recently returned from the Horizon expedition, asked dozens of questions. So we weren't defeated by some outside force, Hyunki said. We chose to forget, to hide, and to preserve our knowledge for future generations, Sora added. The radiation from the artifacts is the key that unlocks these memories. Our ancestors designed this system knowing that eventually we would find these ruins and begin to remember. The question is, said Admiral Yang, are we ready for what's waiting for us out there? This ancient hunger that Sergeant No described. As if in answer, the station's alert system activated. On the main screen, a message appeared from Earth's Defense Command. Unknown objects detected at the edge of the solar system. Multiple signatures, not matching any known species. Sora felt a cold certainty. We're not the only ones who were waiting, she said. It's been waiting too. And our return to the stars has awakened it, just as we awakened our memories. Admiral Yang stood up. How many more volunteers can we process? How quickly can we recover the knowledge we need? The process takes time, Sora explained. But with each volunteer, we learn more. The memories seem to be distributed among humanity. No one person carries all the knowledge. Then we need to keep going, Hyunki said. If our ancestors hid this knowledge to help us survive, we need to access it now. Sora nodded. I'll begin preparing more volunteers immediately. As she walked back to her lab, Sora thought about the countless generations of humans who had lived and died never knowing their true heritage. They had gazed at the stars, dreaming of reaching them someday, not realizing they had already been there. We'll remember, she whispered to those long-dead ancestors. And this time, we'll be ready. Captain Bai Jinwoo looked through the viewing port of the Starship Odyssey. Ahead of them lay the most dangerous region of space known to all civilizations, the accretion disk surrounding the galactic core. Streams of superheated gas and radiation swirled in beautiful, deadly patterns. No ship had ever ventured this deep before. Are you sure about these coordinates? He asked without turning around. Navigator Seo Chunho checked his instruments again. Yes, Captain. According to the star maps recovered from the genetic memories, the structure should be right there. He pointed to an area that looked no different from the rest of the swirling chaos. For 6 months, the Odyssey had followed clues pulled from the memories of volunteers who had undergone Dr. Yoon's activation procedure. Each memory revealed pieces of a puzzle, coordinates, access codes, and warnings about what they might find, all pointing to something called the repository, hidden near the galactic core. Radiation levels are at maximum safe limits, warned First Officer Moonjina. We can't stay here long. Jinwoo nodded. Take us in closer. Engage the ancient shield pattern. Engineer Song Dae-yun activated the special shields designed using knowledge recovered from the genetic memories. The ship's normal blue shield shimmered and changed to a deep purple. Shield pattern engaged, Dae-yun reported. It's working. Radiation levels dropping to safe range. The Odyssey pushed forward into the swirling gases. The crew worked in tense silence. This mission carried the hopes of all humanity. With unknown objects now appearing at the edges of human space, they needed answers quickly. There, Science Officer Ryomina suddenly called out, I'm detecting a structure. On the main screen, something became visible within the gas clouds, a massive dark shape, far larger than their ship. As they drew closer, they could see it was perfectly circular, like a giant ring floating in space. It must be kilometers across, Jinwoo said in amazement. The structure appears to be made of unknown materials, Minna reported, studying her readings. Initial scans suggest it's been here for approximately 2.5 million years, but it's generating power. Jinwoo felt a chill run down his spine. Something built millions of years ago by his ancestors was still working, waiting all this time to be found. Take us in closer, he ordered. Prepare the approach sequence from the recovered memories. As the Odyssey drew near the giant ring, Minna suddenly pointed at the structure. Captain, look. Along the dark surface of the ring, symbols began to light up in sequence, glowing with a soft blue light. It's activating, Minna reported, her voice filled with excitement and fear. It's responding to our presence. The symbols continued to light up, moving in waves across the structure's surface. Then a beam of light shot out from the ring, scanning their ship from end to end.